I was the fake heiress everyone in Silverwood elite circles could bully. For 3 years, my fiancé Ethan had never publicly acknowledged me. When's first love he idealized, Celeste, returned home, he publicly announced that he would enter into a strategic marriage alliance with the Sue family. I became the discarded joke. He threw the engagement termination agreement in my face, his voice cold. Eleanor, Celeste is the true heiress of a prominent family. You're an orphan, don't delude yourself. I signed my name and calmly dialed a number. Uncle, we can prepare the inheritance ceremony. Also, please look into a woman named Celeste, she's been impersonating me for too long. Before we continue, please subscribe to this channel, and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. Ethan's birthday banquet was a glittering assembly of the city's elite. As his fiancé, I didn't even have an invitation. I brazenly wore an old dress I'd bought last year and found a familiar waiter to sneak me in. All I wanted was to give him a surprise. Instead, he gave me a shock. Under the crystal chandelier, Ethan was holding hands with a beautiful woman in a haute couture gown. They were a perfect match, a dashing couple. That woman was Celeste. She was the first love he idealized, the one he'd cherished for 7 years. Using my birthday, I'd like to announce something to everyone. Ethan raised his glass, gazing at Celeste with deep affection. I will be getting engaged to Celeste. We'll be a powerful alliance, forging a future together. The entire hall erupted in thunderous applause. I stood in the shadows of a corner, like a clown in the shadows. Guests around me pointed and whispered, "Isn't that Eleanor? Mr. Liu's fiancé?" "What fiancé? She's just a placeholder." Mr. Liu never acknowledged her. An orphan, trying to climb the social ladder. Now that the real one is back, she should just get out. These words were like knives, each one piercing my heart. I clenched my fist. My nails digging deeply into my palms. 3 years of affection, it turned out to be just a cruel joke. After the banquet, Ethan cornered me in the parking lot. Behind him, Celeste was clinging to him demurely, a victor's smile on her face, but her eyes were venomous. "Eleanor, you heard everything?" Ethan's voice held no trace of guilt, only impatience. I looked at him, this man I had loved for 3 years, and now he felt utterly like a stranger. "Why?" My voice was hoarse. "Why?" He looked as if he'd heard the funniest joke. "Eleanor, look at yourself in the mirror. What about you makes you worthy of me? If it weren't for pity, I wouldn't have even given you a second glance back then." Celeste spoke softly. "Ethan, don't say that. Miss is quite nice." She said kind words, but her hand was tightly linked with Ethan's arm, asserting her claim. "Celeste, you're just too kind." Ethan playfully tapped her nose, then his expression changed. He pulled a file from his briefcase and threw it in front of me. "This is the engagement termination agreement. Sign it, and we're even." The black and white words stung my eyes. What if I don't sign? I looked up, meeting his gaze directly. Ethan's eyes instantly turned cold. "Eleanor, don't push your luck. Celeste is the long-lost heiress of the Sterling, a true prominent family lady. What do you, a parentless orphan, have to compare to her? Why do you think I tolerated you for these 3 years? Wasn't it just to wait for Celeste to return? Now that she's back, you've served your purpose." Every word he spoke was like a heavy hammer, shattering my last shred of dignity. So that's how it was. It turned out I was just a cheap substitute, a stepping stone he used to curry favor with his future in-laws. Now, with the true heiress back, I, the substitute, was naturally to be kicked to the curb. A wave of immense humiliation and rage washed over me. I could barely stand steady. Celeste came forward, falsely sympathetic, to support me. "Miss, don't blame Ethan. Love can't be forced. Don't worry, we won't shortchange you on the breakup fee." As she spoke, she took a check from her Hermes bag and lightly offered it to me. "Here's 500,000. That should be enough for someone like you for a while. Take the money, and stop bothering Ethan." That condescending, charitable air completely ignited the fury within me. I looked at her and suddenly smiled. "The group's heiress? Celeste, you have some nerve." Celeste's face changed. Ethan immediately shielded her, harshly scolding me. "Eleanor, what are you doing? How dare you disrespect Celeste?" I ignored him, simply took a pen from my bag, and swiftly signed my name on the engagement termination agreement. "Ethan, you're going to regret this." I threw the agreement back at him and turned to leave. Behind me, I heard his disdainful scoff. "Regret? The best decision I've ever made in my life was dumping you." I didn't look back, walking directly to an unassuming black Bentley, opening the door, and getting in. Under Celeste's stunned gazes, I dialed a number etched into my memory. "Uncle." My voice was perfectly calm. On the other end of the line, a respectful yet worried voice replied, "Miss, you've been wronged. 5 years. This charade needs to end." I looked out at the receding neon lights, my eyes cold. "You can prepare the inheritance ceremony." "Yes, Mississippi." "Also," I paused, "look into a woman named Celeste, she's been impersonating me for too long." The car smoothly drove into a sprawling estate on the hillside. This was my true home. Chief James was already waiting at the entrance with a retinue of servants. "Welcome home, Mississippi." I stepped out of the car, shed that cheap dress, and changed into the silk robe that had been prepared. Soaking in the warm jacuzzi tub, the resentment and hardship of the past 5 years seemed to evaporate with the steam. 5 years ago, Grandpa, the chairman of the Sterling, set a test for me. He wanted me to conceal my identity and live like an ordinary person, to find true love untainted by personal gain. If I succeeded, all the property under his name would be my dowry. And so, I became Eleanor, an orphan, living in a rundown apartment in the old district, working as an administrative assistant at a small company. It was there that I met Ethan. He was handsome, ambitious, and the company's rising star. He pursued me passionately with daily good mornings and good nights, hot tea on rainy days, and careful care when I was sick. I thought I had found my soulmate. Now, thinking back, it was laughable. All his tenderness and consideration were simply because he saw my orphan status as an easy way to manipulate me, someone with no background, who wouldn't hinder his climb up the social ladder. I closed my eyes, Ethan and Celeste's triumphant faces flashing in my mind. The game had only just begun. The next morning, Uncle placed a file on my bedside table. "Miss, the information you requested." I opened it. The first page showed a photo of Celeste, smiling gently and charmingly. The information revealed that Celeste's parents were former employees of a Sterling subsidiary, later fired for embezzlement. Holding a grudge, they somehow stole a childhood photo of me and a small jade pendant inscribed with the character, Eleanor's real name character, then meticulously crafted a facade for their daughter Celeste, presenting her as the long-lost heiress of the Sterling, and was their chosen first investor. "Take care of it," I calmly instructed. "Yes, Mississippi." I rose and walked to the massive floor-to-ceiling window. In the walk-in closet hung rows of the latest haute couture gowns and jewelry. On the vanity were full sets of top-tier skincare products. This was my life. "Eleanor, welcome back." I put on exquisite makeup, chose a sharply tailored Chanel suit, and, wearing 4-inch heels, left the estate. My first stop, Ethan's company. I would personally reclaim everything that was mine. Ethan's company wasn't large, it was located on the 17th floor of a Class A office building downtown. As I stepped out of the elevator, I bumped squarely into a rushing Ethan. He paused when he saw me, then frowned. "Eleanor? What are you doing here? Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough already?" His gaze fell on my designer clothes, a mix of scrutiny and disdain in his eyes. "What, have you found a new sugar daddy so quickly? You work fast, don't you?" I couldn't be bothered to argue with him, so I bypassed him and headed straight for the CEO's office. "Stop right there." Ethan grabbed my wrist. "This isn't where you belong. Get out." His grip was strong, digging painfully into my skin. I coldly shook him off. "Ethan, look closely. Who's the one who should be getting out?" I pushed open the door to the CEO's office. Inside, a middle-aged man with a receding hairline was frantically dealing with calls. Seeing me enter, he paused, then recognized Ethan behind me. "Mr. Liu, you're here just in time. The group suddenly changed their minds and wants to withdraw their investment. Our project is about to go south. What are we going to do?" Ethan's face turned pale, he had clearly just learned the news. Forgetting about me, he rushed in. "How could this happen?" "Mr. Miller, don't worry, I'll go talk to the Sterling people immediately." "Talk? They won't even answer my calls." Mr. Miller stamped his foot in agitation. I stood with my arms crossed, calmly watching the scene unfold. The show was about to begin. Ethan, frantic, immediately thought of Celeste as his savior. In front of me, he dialed Celeste's number, his tone urgent and somewhat fawning. "Celeste, something's happened. The group wants to withdraw its investment from our project." Celeste's voice on the other end was still gentle. "Ethan, don't rush. Is there some misunderstanding? I'm quite familiar with director of the Sterling. I'll ask him for you." After hanging up, Ethan seemed to have taken a reassuring pill, his gaze at me returning to that condescending scorn. "Eleanor, do you see? This is the difference between you and Celeste. You only bring me trouble, while Celeste can solve all my problems." He was certain Celeste could handle everything. I just found it pathetic. I leaned against the doorframe, watching him with interest. Less than 10 minutes later, Ethan's cell phone rang. He immediately answered, a smile plastered on his face. Celeste, what's the news? The voice on the other end seemed off, and Ethan's smile froze. What? Got yelled at? Called us scammers? How could that be? His face drained of color, turning first pale, then greenish, finally leaving him standing lost and bewildered, phone still in hand. Mr. Miller leaned in, cautiously asking, Mr. Liu, what did Miss say? Ethan seemed not to hear, muttering to himself, impossible. Celeste is the sterling heiress, how dare they? I let out a soft laugh. The sound was piercingly loud in the quiet office. Ethan's head snapped up, his eyes fixed on me. It's you. Were you behind this? I shrugged. Me? I'm just an orphan you dumped. Do I really have that much power? I walked over, picked up a crystal ornament from his desk, and tossed it lightly in my hand. Ethan, I told you before, you're going to regret this. And now, this is just the beginning. After leaving Ethan's company, I went directly to the city's most exclusive mall. Uncle had already made arrangements. Managers from all the major brands personally greeted me, treating me as a distinguished guest. I swiped my card until my hand ached, almost emptying half the mall. Before, when I was with Ethan, to save money, I wouldn't even splurge on an outfit over $500. Now, I looked at the 6 or 7-figure bills without batting an eye. This feeling was truly exhilarating. Just as I was about to head to the next store, a familiar figure came into view. It was Celeste. She was with a few socialites, browsing jewelry at a jewelry store. Speak of the devil. I curled my lips into a smile, and, in my heels, walked inside. Oh, isn't that Eleanor? Chloe, a socialite with pink hair, noticed me first, calling out in an exaggerated tone. All eyes turned to me. Celeste's face visibly stiffened when she saw me, but she quickly resumed her gentle, charming smile. Miss, what a coincidence, are you out shopping too? Yes, I held up a dozen shopping bags. Just broke up with Ethan, feeling down, so I'm doing some retail therapy. Chloe scoffed. Still spending so lavishly after breaking up? Eleanor, you haven't latched onto another old man, have you? You certainly have an appetite for it. The surrounding socialites snickered behind their hands. Celeste feigned scolding. Chloe, don't talk nonsense. Miss isn't that kind of person. She turned to me, adopting a tone of earnest advice. Miss, I know you're hurting, but you shouldn't degrade yourself. A young woman should always maintain her self-respect. What a sanctimonious hypocrite. I couldn't be bothered to play along with their act, so I directly addressed the manager. Bring out the of the ocean, set for me to see. The of the ocean was the crown jewel of their collection, an 8-figure sum piece featuring a massive sapphire and hundreds of smaller diamonds. As soon as the manager heard I wanted to see the of the ocean, his eyes lit up, and he respectfully ushered me into the VIP lounge. Celeste and her group of socialites also followed, clearly hoping to see me make a fool of myself. Eleanor, do you even know how much that jewelry set costs? You couldn't afford it even if you sold yourself. Chloe, the pink-haired socialite, mocked without reservation. Celeste pulled her arm. Chloe, enough. She looked at me, a hint of pity in her eyes. Miss, it's fine to just look, but don't overreach. As if I were merely a poor person pretending to be rich. The manager soon arrived, carefully carrying the of the ocean set while wearing white gloves. The massive sapphire sparkled under the lights, shimmering with splendor, breathtakingly beautiful. It's truly exquisite, I praised sincerely. Miss has excellent taste, the manager smiled obsequiously. This set is the only one of its kind in the world. Many wealthy socialites have wanted to buy it, but our boss said we must wait for its destined owner. Destined owner? More like waiting for someone rich, Chloe sneered. Eleanor, have you seen enough? Don't hold up Celeste's shopping. Celeste had also taken a liking to the necklace and was about to ask the manager to wrap it up, showcasing her true heiress financial power. But I beat her to it, pulling a black card from my bag. No need to look any further. I'll take this set. Wrap it up. The entire room fell silent. Everyone stared at me as if I were insane. The manager was also stunned, asking somewhat unsurely, Miss, are you certain? This set is priced at 38 million. I know, I handed him the card. Swipe it. The manager's pupils abruptly constricted as he saw the black card in my hand. It was the Sterling's exclusive black card, one of only 10 issued worldwide, with an unlimited credit line. His attitude did a complete 180 in an instant. He almost fawned as he took the card. Yes. I'll process it for you right away. Celeste's face instantly turned ashen. Impossible. Celeste shrieked. How do you have that card? She had only heard about that card in legends. It was said that only the most core family members of the Sterling could possess one. She had dreamed of owning one, but now, it was in the hands of Eleanor, the person she despised most. Chloe was also dumbfounded. Eleanor, did you steal that card? I looked at them, amused. Steal? Celeste, you've usurped my identity for so long. Do you really think the real thing would become yours? What do you mean? An ominous premonition rose in Celeste's heart. I ignored her, took the manager's carefully wrapped jewelry box, and turned to leave. As I passed Celeste, I paused, leaned close to her ear, and whispered in a voice only we two could hear, I forgot to tell you, the chairman of the Sterling is my grandpa. Celeste's body stiffened, as if struck by lightning. Her eyes widened, staring at me in disbelief, her lips trembling, unable to utter a single word. I watched her reaction with satisfaction, a smirk curling my lips, then, in my heels, I swept away amidst the stunned and uncertain gazes of the onlookers. Celeste, your good days are over. Over the next few days, the entire Silverwood High Society was abuzz about one thing. The group was hosting a grand banquet to formally introduce their long-lost heir to the public. Suddenly, all eyes were on Celeste. After all, her identity as the Sterling heiress was deeply ingrained in everyone's minds. The family's standing rose, and their doorstep became bustling with visitors. Countless people came to curry favor. Ethan, too, was swelling with pride, as if he could already see himself reaching the peak of his life. His company's crisis also seemed to have eased due to Celeste's connection. Although the Sterling hadn't resumed cooperation, many smaller companies, hoping to curry favor with the future Sterling son-in-law, proactively sent in orders. His arrogance was insufferable. He even called me, his tone filled with boasting and condescension. Eleanor, I can bring you to the banquet on Friday night to broaden your horizons. To show you just how big the gap is between you and me. However, you have to agree to one condition. What condition? I asked, feigning ignorance. Go apologize to Celeste. His voice turned cold. Apologize for your rude behavior at the jewelry store. Celeste is kind-hearted. As long as you sincerely repent, she will forgive you. I almost laughed out loud. Even now, he was still daydreaming. Ethan, I said, every word distinct, you'd better hope you don't end up crying your eyes out on Friday night. With that, I hung up directly. Hearing the busy signal, Ethan was so enraged he nearly threw his cell phone. You ungrateful wretch. I'd like to see how you get into the banquet without me. On the night of the banquet, the stars twinkled brightly. Outside the Sterling's flagship 7-star hotel, a parade of luxury cars and a constellation of dignitaries gathered. Everyone wanted to catch a glimpse of the mysterious heir. Celeste, in a custom-tailored Ellie haute couture gown, appeared on the red carpet, radiant, linked arm in arm with Ethan. A flurry of camera flashes enveloped them. Miss, as the Sterling's heir, what are your thoughts right now? Mr. Liu, with your marriage to Miss approaching, does this signify a deeper cooperation between Liu and the Sterling? Celeste smiled, flawlessly answering reporters' questions, assuming the air of a true hostess. Ethan also straightened his back, enjoying the envious gazes of the crowd. As they were about to enter the ballroom, they were stopped by the security guards at the door. Excuse me, both of you, please show your invitation. Ethan frowned, displeased. I'm Ethan, and this is Mississippi. Do we still need an invitation? The security guard remained expressionless. I apologize, but no one is allowed to enter without an invitation. The surrounding reporters and guests all looked over, and the scene became somewhat awkward. Celeste's face also showed embarrassment. She whispered to Ethan, what's going on? Didn't Uncle send us invitations? Ethan also found it strange, but still tried to save face. Perhaps they missed sending one. I'll make a call. He dialed Uncle's number, but it rang for a long time with no answer. Just as they were caught between a rock and a hard place, on the verge of becoming the laughingstock of the entire event, a stretched Rolls-Royce slowly pulled up to the end of the red carpet. The car door opened, and Chief James personally stepped forward, respectfully pulling it open. A foot, clad in a crystal-encrusted heel, emerged first. Then, I slowly stepped out of the car, wearing a fiery red mermaid gown. The gown's hem was adorned with countless tiny scattered diamonds, reflecting dazzling light under the spotlights. Around my neck was "The of the Ocean" set. The moment I appeared, I captivated everyone's attention. The camera flashes were 100 times more intense than when they were focused on Celeste. Oh my God, who is she? She's so beautiful. Is that "The of the Ocean" around her neck? Am I seeing that right? To have Chief James personally open the car door, her identity, Ethan and Celeste were also frozen in shock. They never imagined I would make such an entrance. Especially, her eyes were red with jealousy as she looked at my gown and jewelry. I didn't look at them, walking directly towards the ballroom entrance. The security guard saw me and immediately bowed deeply at 90 degrees. "Miss, you've arrived." I nodded slightly, and just as I was about to enter, Celeste's shrill voice came from behind me. "Stop right there. Eleanor, how are you here?" She rushed over, disregarding her image, trying to grab me. Chief James immediately stepped forward, blocking her. "Miss Sue, please conduct yourself with dignity." "Uncle." Celeste looked as if she had found a savior. "Quickly tell them, I'm the sterling heiress. This woman is a fraud." Ethan also reacted, pointing at me and sternly questioning, "Eleanor, what trick did you pull to sneak in? Where did you rent those clothes and jewelry?" Even now, he still thought I was merely bluffing. I looked at them as if they were mere jesters. Who the fraud is will soon be revealed. I left them with that statement, and escorted by Uncle, I walked into the resplendent ballroom. Under the crystal chandelier in the center of the hall, an energetic and sharp old man with graying hair awaited me. It was my grandpa, the chairman of the Sterling. I walked his side, intimately linked my arm with his. "Grandpa." Grandpa lovingly patted my hand. "It's good that you're back." This scene was live broadcast to everyone outside the ballroom via the large screen. Ethan and Celeste's faces instantly drained of all color. "No, impossible." Celeste collapsed to the ground, shaking her head repeatedly. "Grandpa?" How could she call Chairman Grandpa? Ethan was also completely dumbfounded. His mind went blank, with only one thought screaming wildly, "It's over." Inside the ballroom, Grandpa took the microphone, his voice booming as he announced, "Thank you all for joining us tonight. Today, I want to formally introduce my granddaughter, and the sole heir of the Sterling." He looked at me, his gaze filled with pride. "Eleanor." My true name, in fact, was Eleanor. As Arthur's words fell, the entire hall erupted in thunderous applause. I stood in the spotlight, accepting everyone's attention. I saw the socialites who had once pointed fingers at me, now displaying fawning smiles. My gaze finally settled on the lost and bewildered man at the ballroom entrance. "Ethan." Our eyes met across the room. His gaze was filled with shock, regret, unwillingness, and a hint of fear. I raised my glass to him, revealing a radiant yet chilling smile. "Game over." Celeste went mad. Disregarding the security guard's attempts to stop her, she burst into the ballroom, screaming hysterically and pointing at me. "She's fake. I'm the real one. You've all been fooled by her. I'm the Jing family heiress. I have proof." She pulled out the small jade pendant from her bag, holding it high. "Look. This is the Jing family's token." The entire hall erupted in an uproar. Reporters, like sharks smelling blood, aimed their cameras at the unfolding spectacle. Grandpa's face darkened. Yet, I remained calm. "Oh? A token?" I walked up to her and took the jade pendant. This jade, indeed, belonged to me when I was a child. Celeste's eyes lit up, thinking I had admitted it. But, I quickly shifted my tone, the true token is a pair. The other half is with me. I untied a small object on a red string from around my neck. It was another identical jade pendant. When the two pendants were joined, they perfectly formed the complete character for Eleanor. This. Celeste was completely dumbfounded. Her parents had only stolen one pendant and had no idea that the token was a pair. Chief James opportunely stepped forward, projecting a DNA paternity test report and a thick stack of documents onto the large screen. "Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Sue's parents were former employees of our group, fired for theft and embezzlement. Holding a grudge, they stole Mrs. childhood photo and token, meticulously planned this deception. Here is Mrs. DNA paternity test report with the chairman, as well as the criminal evidence against the Sue couple." The evidence was irrefutable. Celeste's deception was exposed publicly. Her last psychological barrier completely collapsed, and she screamed and lunged at me. "Eleanor, you owe me my life. You stole everything from me." Security quickly moved in, subdued her, and dragged her out. Her piteous screams echoed throughout the ballroom, like a dirge played just for her. The farce ended. The ballroom returned to quiet, but turbulent waves churned in everyone's hearts. The dramatic public reveal of the true and fake heiresses. It was more dramatic than any movie script. Ethan stood frozen, like a statue. His proud intended spouse and a strategic alliance had, overnight, fallen from grace into disgrace, becoming the daughter of a con artist. And his ex-girlfriend, whom he had discarded like a broken toy, had transformed into the sterling heir he was forever out of his league with. This world had truly gone mad. He remembered the things he had said and done to Eleanor, each one felt like a resounding slap across his face. Regret washed over him like a tide, drowning him. He stumbled towards me, forcing a smile that was worse than a grimace. Eleanor. No, Eleanor. Mississippi. He was incoherent, unsure how to address me. I didn't know. I truly didn't know. If I had known your identity, I would never have. So, I interrupted him, my eyes cold. You didn't love me. You loved the identity of being the sterling heiress, didn't you? He was speechless by my question. Ethan, I looked at him, every word distinct. You disgust me. He fell to his knees before me with a thud. In front of all the guests present. Eleanor, I was wrong. I truly was wrong. I love you. It's always been you. Celeste and I were just for show. It was for our future. You have to believe me. He clung to my leg, weeping uncontrollably, stripped of all dignity. I only found it laughable and pathetic. Uncle, I couldn't even be bothered to look at him anymore. Please escort this gentleman out. I don't wish to see him again. Yes, Mississippi. 2 security guards stepped forward and dragged Ethan out like a dead dog. He kept calling my name, calling out I love you. How ironic. An impeccably dressed man, exuding an air of sophistication, walked up to me, holding a glass of champagne. Well done. His voice was deep and melodious. I turned, meeting a pair of eyes as deep as the ocean. Alexander. Another of Silverwood corporate titans, the head of the Alexander. And the intended spouse in a strategic alliance Grandpa had chosen for me. Mr. Alexander, I raised my glass to him, long time no see. He curled his lips into a smile. Not so long. Your coffee shop latte had a wonderful taste. I paused, then understood. It turned out that while I was playing the role of ordinary Eleanor, he had also been silently watching over me. After the banquet, I officially took over as vice of the Sterling. On my first day of work, I called a senior management meeting. The sole item on the agenda, the acquisition of Ethan's company. Lou already had an unstable foundation, having lost Sterling's investment, and with its reputation tarnished by Celeste's scandal, it was already in a precarious situation. The group's acquisition offer became the final straw that broke the camel's back. At the acquisition negotiation table, I saw Ethan again. In just a few days, he seemed to have aged 10 years. His hair was disheveled, stubble covered his face, and his eyes were deeply sunken. His former vitality was gone. When he saw me, his eyes held a complex mix of regret, unwillingness, and a hint of pleading. Eleanor. Uncle immediately stepped forward, his voice cold. Mr. Liu, please address our director. Ethan's face turned crimson. I expressionlessly leafed through the acquisition documents, as if he were an inconsequential stranger. Director, Mr. Miller of Liu nervously wiped his brow, cautiously speaking, isn't this acquisition price a bit too low? I raised my eyelids, looking at him. Mr. Miller thinks it's too low? Yes, although our company has encountered some difficulties, it still has a solid foundation. This price. It's less than 1/10 of its market value. Oh? I closed the file and leaned back in my chair. Then we won't acquire it. No. Mr. Miller and Ethan cried out in unison. If they didn't sell to the Sterling, their company would only face bankruptcy and liquidation, leading to even greater losses. Director, please don't be angry, Mr. Miller quickly said. The price is negotiable. I looked at Ethan. He had his head down, his fists clenched tightly, his body trembling slightly from humiliation. Suddenly, I felt a little bored. What I wanted was never to see how miserable he was. I just wanted him to understand what exactly he had looked down upon. This is the price. I stood up. Sign it or don't, it's up to you. With that, I turned and left the meeting room. I knew they had no other choice. Ethan's company was ultimately acquired by the Sterling at a humiliating price. He went from a promising young talent to a penniless failure. But that wasn't enough. A few days later, an elegant and noble woman found my office. It was Martha, Ethan's mother. The moment she saw me, she fell to her knees with a thud. Eleanor, Auntie is begging you, please let Ethan go. She wept uncontrollably, her face streaked with tears. It's all that siren Celeste's fault. She seduced our Ethan. Our was blinded by her. He truly loves you. How could 3 years of affection just disappear like that? She cried, trying to reach for my hand. I stepped back in disgust, avoiding her touch. Mrs. Martha, my voice was devoid of warmth, don't you think it's too late to say all this now? I remembered it clearly. When and I were together, Mrs. Martha had, more than once, admonished me right to my face. Eleanor, our Ethan is excellent. You, on the other hand, while your family background isn't great, are at least well behaved. After you're married, just stay home and be a good wife and mother. Don't go out showing your face and embarrassing the Alexander family. Also, don't associate with that orphanage of yours anymore. Our family doesn't want to be involved with a place like that. Her condescending demeanor is still etched in my memory. Now, she was kneeling before me, begging me to forgive her son. How ironic. R can't lose this job. He's never suffered a day in his life, how will he survive now? Director, I looked at her coldly, this is the path he chose. When he abandoned me for Celeste, why didn't he consider how I would survive? Mrs. Martha was speechless, utterly blocked by my words. I called security and had her escorted out. Finally, silence returned to the office. I looked out the window, but felt no satisfaction from revenge. I just felt that everything should finally come to an end. I thought the matter would be over then. Unexpectedly, Celeste started causing trouble again. I didn't know how she got out on bail, but one rainy night, she frantically stormed to the gates of my estate, loudly arguing. Alien. Whore. You bitch. Get out here. You stole my life. Give everything back to me. I was in my study, going over documents, when a frantic maid ran in to report. I frowned and walked to the security monitor. On the screen, Celeste was soaked to the bone, her hair plastered messily to her face, looking like a banshee. She seemed to be holding a kitchen knife in her hand. Just as I was about to tell security to call the police, a black Maybach silently pulled up behind Celeste. Alexander stepped out of the car, holding a black umbrella, and positioned himself in front of Celeste. Miss, have you made enough of a scene? His voice was as cold as ice. Celeste froze when she saw him, then became even more agitated. Alexander. Are you here to mock me too? You're all in league with Eleanor. She brandished the kitchen knife, losing control and lunging at Alexander. Alexander's bodyguards reacted swiftly, instantly stepping forward, kicking the knife out of her hand, and pinning her firmly to the ground. Alexander didn't even glance at her, only looking up towards my study window. Our gazes met again, through the curtain of rain. He nodded slightly at me. I picked up the intercom and told the security at the gate, open the door, let Mr. Alexander in. When walked into the study, he still carried a trace of the rainy night's chill. He took off his overcoat, handed it to the maid, and his gaze fell on the mountain of documents piled on my desk. It seems being director isn't easy. Director, arriving late at night, just to mock me? I poured him a cup of hot tea. He took the teacup, the warmth of his fingertips transferring through the ceramic. I was just passing by. He paused, then added, and by the way, to deal with an annoying fly. I knew he was referring to Celeste. She's already been taken by the police. Alexander looked at me, his eyes deep. Fraud, plus intentional assault. That's enough to keep her locked up for a few years. Thank you. I said sincerely. Don't thank me. He took a sip of tea. I just don't want to see my future business partner troubled by such trivial matters. Future business partner? I raised an eyebrow. Sterling and the Alexander have significant potential for collaboration on the new energy initiative. He set down his teacup and leaned slightly forward. My visit today is also to discuss this with Director. He took a business proposal from his briefcase and pushed it towards me. I opened it and, after only a few pages, was captivated by his grand and meticulous vision. This man not only possessed a captivating face, but also an astonishing business mind. We talked for a long time, from new energy to artificial intelligence, from market layout to future trends. I discovered an astonishing synchronicity between us. Before I knew it, dawn was faintly breaking outside the window. It's getting late. Alexander stood up. We can discuss the details of our collaboration another time. He walked to the door, then turned back and smiled at me. Eleanor, he called me by my full name, you're even more interesting than I imagined. My heart skipped a beat. The collaboration project with the Alexander quickly moved forward. This was the first major project I spearheaded after taking over Sterling, and I poured all my efforts into it. However, things did not go smoothly. At a critical stage of the project, our proprietary technical data was leaked. It was leaked to our biggest competitor in the market. Suddenly, Sterling's stock plummeted, and dissenting voices began to emerge on the board. I said it. How can an inexperienced young woman handle such a huge responsibility? If this project fails, Sterling's losses will be immeasurable. Chairman, weren't you too hasty? At the board meeting, several veteran board members brazenly challenged me. Leading them was my second uncle, Edward. He had always harbored resentment about Grandpa entrusting the company to me. Eleanor, you've disappointed us greatly, he said, feigning deep regret. Now that such a major blunder has occurred, what do you plan to do? I sat at the head of the table, listening to their accusations without expression. Only when they finished did I slowly begin to speak. Uncle, why are you so agitated? With the data leak, shouldn't they be the ones who are anxious, not us? Edward froze. What do you mean? I looked at Uncle, who understood and distributed a document to all the directors present. Gentlemen, you can see that what we leaked was specially processed data. This data will temporarily boost their product performance by 20%. However, after 3 months, it will cause their entire system to completely crash. And our true core data has already been encrypted and upgraded with the assistance of the Alexander. The entire room fell silent. Everyone looked at me with shock in their eyes. Edward's face alternated between green and white. In other words, I curved my lips, my gaze sweeping over everyone present. Not only have we incurred no losses, but we have also planted a ticking time bomb for our competitors. As for the insider. My gaze finally settled on a young man behind Edward. It was my cousin, Liam. Liam's face instantly turned ashen, cold sweat trickling down. Liam, I tapped the table, will you tell us yourself, or shall I refresh your memory? Liam immediately broke down. He knelt on the floor, weeping uncontrollably and confessing that a rival company had bribed him with a high salary and position. He had been momentarily blinded by greed and committed the act. Edward trembled with rage, stepping forward and slapping him across the face. You rebellious son. I watched the farce with cold indifference, my heart unmoved. From the moment I decided to turn their scheme against them, I had guessed who the insider was. Liam had always clung to his father, Edward, and harbored resentment over my taking control of the company. It was no surprise that he would be bought off. Grandpa, I looked at Grandpa, who had been silent. How do you think this matter should be handled? Grandpa sighed, his eyes filled with disappointment. A stain on our family's name, what a stain on our family's name. He looked at Edward. Edward, with Liam doing something like this, you, as his father, cannot shirk responsibility. From today onward, you and Liam will both leave the company. I will buy back your shares at market price. This effectively expelled them from the Sterling family's inner circle. Edward's face was ashen, as if he had aged 20 years in an instant. Liam, even more so, collapsed to the floor, pale as a ghost. A storm thus subsided. With decisive and ruthless tactics, I not only exposed the insider but also cleared out the opposition on the board, solidified her position within the company. After the meeting, Alexander's call came in. Congratulations, Director, secured her first major victory. His voice carried a hint of amusement. The pleasure is mutual, Director, I smiled back. This show wouldn't have been so spectacular without your help. Then, to celebrate our successful collaboration, he paused, are you free for dinner tonight? My heart, once again, inconveniently quickened. Yes. My relationship with Alexander rapidly deepened through our successive collaborations and interactions. He would take me to his usual exclusive private dining club, walk with me through the streets late at night, and remembered that I didn't eat cilantro and preferred warm water. He never brought up my past, nor did he ever ask about Ethan. What he offered me was respect, understanding, and standing as equals, side by side. With him, I didn't need to pretend, didn't need to act tough. I could be the decisive director, or the Eleanor who can be affectionate and show vulnerability. On my birthday, he booked an entire private island and set off a grand fireworks display for me. Beneath the fireworks, he knelt on one knee and pulled out a velvet box. Inside was a brilliant diamond engagement ring. Miss, he looked up at me, his gaze earnest and focused, will you marry me and become my one and only Mrs. Alexander? My tears instantly welled up and spilled over. I nodded vigorously. He placed the ring on my finger, stood up, and pulled me into his embrace. I love you, he whispered in my ear. I love you too. I held him, feeling his warm embrace and strong heartbeat. I had once thought I would never believe in love again. But's appearance made me realize that it wasn't love that was untrustworthy, it was that I had loved the wrong person before. True love is about equality, about meeting each other halfway. News of my engagement to Alexander quickly spread throughout Silverwood. The strategic marriage alliance between Sterling and the Alexander was hailed as the strongest business union of the century. Our engagement party was even grander than the previous Sterling heiress banquet. Almost all the dignitaries of the city attended to offer congratulations. At the banquet, I wore the exorbitantly priced wedding gown Alexander had bought for me, holding his hand, accepting everyone's blessings. I saw many familiar faces. The socialites who once mocked me now surrounded me, showering me with flattering words. Human nature is truly laughably realistic. Just as the banquet was halfway through, an uninvited guest burst in. It was Ethan. He looked even more down and out than the last time I saw him. He was wearing a faded, cheap suit, his hair greasy, and his eyes cloudy. He had somehow managed to get a reporter's press badge and sneaked in. He rushed up to us, a microphone in hand, shouting emotionally, "Eleanor, you can't marry him." All eyes in the room instantly focused on us. Alexander's face darkened, and he shielded me behind him. Security immediately stepped forward, trying to drag Ethan away. "Don't touch me." Ethan struggled. "I'm here to expose the truth." He shouted at the surrounding reporters, "Everyone has been deceived by this woman. She's a hypocritical, malicious, and unscrupulous gold digger. She got together with me just to use me. Now that she's climbed onto the Alexander family's powerful branch, she just kicked to the curb. She even used despicable tactics to bring down my company, leaving me with nothing." He portrayed himself as a victim, heartlessly abandoned, attempting to garner sympathy and to ruin my reputation. Watching his performance of twisting facts, I found it utterly absurd. Even now, he still refused to admit that his own foolishness and greed had led to this outcome. Faced with Ethan's slander, I wasn't angry. Instead, I smiled. "Ethan, have you forgotten what you said to me back then?" I took out my cell phone and played a voice recording. It was something I had inadvertently recorded. It was his conversation with a friend on the phone, before we broke up. That is just a burden with no background. If it weren't for her slight utility, I would have kicked her to the curb long ago. Once I've secured Celeste, the true heiress, and become Sterling's son-in-law, I'll have any woman I want. At that point, Eleanor will be the first one I dump. The voice recording played clearly throughout the banquet hall. Every word was like a resounding slap, hitting Ethan's face hard. The color drained from his face instantly. The entire hall erupted in an uproar. Reporters' flashes flickered wildly. The truth was self-evident. You. Ethan pointed at me, trembling with rage. "You actually recorded it." I just wanted to keep it as a memento. I put away my cell phone, looking at him with icy eyes. A memento of what kind of scum I loved for 3 years. "Now, do you have anything else to say?" Ethan completely broke down. He collapsed to the floor like a pile of mud. The security DS dragged him out, and this time, he didn't struggle. He knew he was completely finished. His reputation, his dignity, his future, everything had, at that moment, turned to dust. The farce ended, and the banquet continued. Alexander held my hand and whispered, "Are you all right?" I smiled at him. Never better. With the last piece of trash cleared, my life could finally turn a new page. After the banquet, Alexander took me to the mountaintop. Under the night sky, the city lights stretched out before us. "Eleanor," he held me from behind, "from now on, no one will ever be able to hurt you." I know, I leaned against his chest, feeling an unprecedented sense of peace. "Actually," he paused, his voice slightly hesitant, "there's something I haven't told you." "What is it?" "Initially, Ethan's company's first crisis, Sterling's withdrawal of funds. Wasn't that your doing?" I was a little surprised. I had always thought Uncle had done it at my instruction. "No," Alexander shook his head. "It was me. I had already made my move before you even called me." I was stunned. "Why?" "Because," he rested his chin on my shoulder, his voice low and tender, "I didn't want to see the girl I liked suffer even the slightest grievance. Even if, at that time, you didn't even know I existed." My heart was enveloped by a huge wave of warmth. It turned out that, in corners I didn't know about, he had already done so much for me. I turned around, stood on tiptoe, and kissed his lips. "Alexander, thank you. Thank you for seeing my light when I was at my most vulnerable. Thank you for making me believe that, in this world, there is still beautiful love." Married life was sweet and fulfilling. Alexander and I were not only husband and wife, but also the most harmonious business partners. Together, we expanded the commercial empires of Sterling and the Alexander to new heights. I was no longer the Eleanor who needed to hide her identity and test true intentions. I was the head of the Sterling, Alexander's wife, a woman who stood by his side, seeing the world with him. Occasionally, I would see news about Ethan in some gossip columns. He was completely bankrupt, doing all dirty and tiring work to pay off his debts. Some saw him carrying bricks at a construction site, others saw him washing dishes in a restaurant kitchen. His former friends all avoided him like the plague. The family had also completely fallen, and Mrs. Martha, unable to bear the blow, fell ill. It was said that Ethan, having nowhere to turn, once sought help from women he had previously manipulated, only to have them arrange for someone to break a leg. I felt no sympathy for his fate. He chose his own path, and he naturally had to taste the bitter fruit himself. As for Celeste, she was released after spending a few years in prison, but her life was completely ruined. Branded a fraudster, no one dared to hire her. Her parents also received their due punishment for participating in the fraud. I heard that she later developed mental problems and was sent to a psychiatric hospital. The fates of these people served as a warning. Wishful thinking of getting rich without effort, stealing a life that doesn't belong to them, ultimately, only leads to fate's backlash. A year later, Alexander and I welcomed our son. The little one looked just like his father, a little cool guy from birth, but when he smiled, he had my features. Grandpa held his great-grandson, beaming with joy. He said it was the best gift he had ever received in his life. Alexander, too, transformed from a decisive business magnate into a devoted father. The first thing he did after work every day was rush home to hold his son. Watching them play together, I often felt that this was, perhaps, what tranquil years were like. That day, as I was feeding our son, my cell phone rang. It was an unknown number. I hesitated, but answered it anyway. A hoarse, unfamiliar voice came from the other end. Is this Eleanor? It is. I'm Ethan. I froze for a moment, surprised that he would contact me. Do you need something? My tone was very flat. My mom. She's dying. A trace of a sob was in his voice. Before she dies, she wants to see you one last time. She said she wants to apologize to you in person. I fell silent. To be honest, I didn't want to go. I had long let go of past grievances and didn't want any more involvement. But when I thought of that once elegant and noble woman, now on her deathbed, reaching the end of her life, a flicker of compassion stirred within me. Address, I finally spoke. I went to the hospital. In the most ordinary shared hospital ward, I saw Mrs. Martha. She lay on the hospital bed, emaciated, reduced to nothing but skin and bones. Seeing me, a flicker of light suddenly ignited in her cloudy eyes. She struggled, trying to sit up. Ethan rushed forward to support her. Eleanor. Her voice was as faint as a mosquito's buzz. You came. I walked to the bedside, looking at her, my heart filled with mixed feelings. Auntie. I'm sorry. She grabbed my hand, tears streaming down. It was me. I was blind. It was me. I harmed Ethan. And I harmed you. You're a good child. It's us. Our Alexander family. We weren't worthy of you. She spoke intermittently, and then, unable to catch her breath, began to cough violently. Ethan quickly patted her back to help her breathe. Watching this scene, I sighed inwardly. If only I had known then, why would I have done that? It's all in the past, I said softly. No, it's not over. Mrs. Martha shook her head. I'll never have sense of peace in this life. She fumbled under her pillow and pulled out a savings passbook, trembling as she handed it to me. There's a little money in here. It's what I saved. Please take it. Just consider it. Us paying you back. I didn't take it. You keep it. No. You take it. Only then can I have sense of peace. Key. Our hand remained stubbornly extended. Ethan stood beside her, head bowed, saying nothing, his face flushed. I looked at him, this man who was once so high-spirited, now unable to provide his mother with even a shred of dignity in her final moments. In the end, I took the savings passbook. Seeing me accept it, Mrs. Martha's face showed a relieved smile. She looked at me, then at Ethan, her lips moving, as if she wanted to say something else. But in the end, nothing came out. Her hand fell. Her eyes, too, closed forever. By the time I left the hospital, it was already dark. Alexander's car was parked right outside the hospital entrance. Seeing me emerge, he immediately got out and opened the car door for me. Everything handled? Yes, I settled into the car, leaning back against the seat, feeling a little weary. He didn't ask further, just started the car. The car was quiet, with only soft music playing. I watched the streetlights blur past outside the window, my heart filled with a mixture of emotions. Mrs. Martha's death was like a period, marking the end of all the grievances between Ethan and me. From now on, our lives would never intersect again. When we got home, our son was already asleep. I took a shower, put on my pajamas, and walked out onto the balcony. Alexander stood there, holding a glass of red wine. What are you thinking about? He handed me the wine. I took it and clinked glasses with him. I'm thinking life is truly wonderful. I told him what had happened at the hospital. He listened, silent for a moment, then took my hand. Everyone has to pay the price for their choices. Indeed, I leaned on his shoulder, looking at the stars. Thankfully, I chose you. He smiled, lowering his head to kiss my forehead. No, he said, I was lucky enough to wait for you. We exchanged a knowing smile, everything was unsaid. Past pains had all turned to dust. There was still a long future ahead. But as long as he and our child were by my side, I had nothing to fear. My life was no longer a game I needed to prove myself in. It was the warm, authentic moments of everyday life that I built with the man I loved. This was the true happiness I had always wanted. Thank you for listening to today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments, and welcome you to share your views. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.